So yeah, what's happening down there on this freezing? Because it's probably colder down there than what it is up here.
So cold right now. Yeah, it's very cold. I don't know, not much. I'm just like it's just a it's a week night, a work night, so or school night as they say, I guess. So not too much going on. Yeah, I'm just anyway. I know that we sort of coordinated this with our probably our mutual mate there,
Yes.
Dan, and so here we are. So yeah, it was kind of a yeah, no, it's good because I think I don't know what happened the other day, but what? Yeah, I'm trying to think of something to. What do we have going on here in Melbourne? Not much at the minute. Just
Grim and
kind of, yeah, just having some green tea,
yeah.
some green Simpsons tea, and then we're just trying to get this album finished, or it's just we're sort of in the mixing stage of it, and it just feels like oh man, I'm so ready for this thing to be done and all that kind of thing. But it's one of those things where like with the Spotify era that we're in, it's like it's like how do we release things on a monthly kind of basis with these singles kind of thing, and I'm quickly getting like too impatient for that. I just want to get it all, just have it all sort of put out there. So you know what I mean? It's just like the idea of like if you're just sort of if I feel like people digest things quickly and then they just kind of like, all right, now what? What like on to the next thing. And it's if it was it's just, and this is just my intuition. I could be totally wrong. I just feel like that I'd rather just listen to things like as an album, like as an experience kind of. I know that's sort of an old school thing to say, maybe.
No.
Maybe not.
Oh,
Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it to just like drop in, because it's just like because the song that we just released in a way, it's sort of like, man, we're so, it's one of those things. It's sort of it's like and I hate to sort of grumble a little bit, but it's one of those things where you get an idea and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, and then you sort of you build it up and then you work on it and you're like, oh, this is so I can't wait for people to hear this, and then like then you keep going and then it's just like, oh, let's tweak this level a little this a little that da da da. By the time you're finished with the thing, you hate it.
yes, I know.
as an as an artist, I even though I hate referring to myself as an artist, or even as a musician, I don't really feel like I qualify in that, even though that sounds maybe ridiculous considering. But anyway, but like it's just this funny kind of thing where like by the time you're done or you finish the thing, you're kind of like, I don't want to hear it for months now.
I went through that earlier this year. We had a single that was
Yeah.
back and forward, and we were just tweaking. And by the end of it, we're just like, just just
Yeah, it's
get it out.
you want it to be fresh and novel and kind of fun again, and it's like you
Yeah.
almost have to just leave it for a period of time to be able to come back to it because you've
Yeah.
literally heard it more than anybody will ever hear the song. And it's funny because I have those moments like when I hear something on the radio or whatever, maybe I'm at work or something, and I'm like, do you hear this? And I'll say to my coworker, I'll be like, somebody like spent hours and hours, and then the engineers, and then the da 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 da, and it's like the whole thing. Not even nothing to say of like the genesis of an idea or a song or a thing, and but it's like it's really kind of it's depressing. It's almost like this. Maybe it's an OCD. I don't know. Not that I have OCD or anything. I know that's probably an overused term, but it's like it's one of those things where I'm like, you kind of get to that point, and you're like, I don't know, man. I used to have this thing where it was like even with like old celebrities or something, maybe people that like I saw on TV when growing up and whatever, and then you'd be like, oh God, what happened to that person? Or like somebody that hit it, like whether it's the kid in the ET movie or something. Um, Thomas Howell maybe is his name. Maybe I'm keep thinking of a different. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's
That's
like
right. Yeah,
and then
no,
you,
that
and
is
then
right.
okay, yeah. So it's like one of those things where it's like, and then you're like, oh no, and you don't see anything, or you suddenly become aware that like you haven't seen them in a film or even a show or whatever for like years, and you're going like, oh God, I hope they're okay. Like because I know that like anyway, but I also know that people that do major kind of blockbuster or similar kind of movies will God, I'm on such a tangent. I'll just stop after this.
No, no,
But
no, no, no. I love it. No, no,
they
keep it
make
flowing.
40% of their life's earnings in like one big film. So you go, okay. So maybe they just get two big movies and then they can kind of just go away, and it's fine. And they're like, they don't you need to worry about it. They're sitting there like whatever, raising a family or doing whatever they're doing, and they just kind of like, yeah, I have my little my little 15 minutes of fame, and now I'm just gonna go off with my money and have my green tea in a Simpsons cup.
Oh,
No,
that's
I don't have any. I don't have money. What am I talking about?
that's money. What is money? Musicians and podcasts and all those things. Creative people don't have money. It's a money pit.
But I mean
We throw it
that
all
was my
down
joke.
there. It's if it wasn't so funny and real, I'd be crying.
It's funny. I was even like, I had a coworker trying to get me to go in on the hundred whatever something million lotto, and he's always coming by, and I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, and I mean, and I probably will like tomorrow. I'll go in and I'll give him my $10 and whatever. Just he's like, yeah, go, let's go in. But I'm always thinking like, listen, and I try to tell him, and I say, listen, David, if my coworker, anyways, like, I'm like, dude, if I'm not on some level okay with where I am, like right now,
hmm.
done. Like I might as well go jump off a bridge now. It's like you have to be kind of like, you know what? Am I okay? Am I good? Am I good with my kids? Am I da 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 da? Relationships, whatever, people, friends. And am I okay? Like you kind of just do that thing where you realize like when I really take stock, I'll be like, nah, man, I got everything I wanted in life. It's funny, I even put that lyric into that High Castle Tale Orchestra song where it was like, I got everything I wanted, but I had to give it back, wasn't mine to keep. And it's sort of this almost, I'm trying to do this kind of stoic kind of thing of going like, all these things we amass and collect, and whether it's, whatever it might be, it's like we don't get to keep it. And even this life is just like this weird little bloop, and then we're here and we're like, oh, whoa, whoa, what's this? And then we do all these things, and then it's just like you have to be like in an Eckhart Tolle kind of way, be getting ready, man, for the inevitable thing, and not and not in a scary or depressed or kind of defeated way. It's kind of like, no, man, dive headlong long into that. Maybe, I mean, maybe even take some like DMT on the way in, or psilocybin, just like go like, oh man, here, this is it, this might be it. Like I feel like I would hope that if I made it close to my 90s, I'd be like, any day might be the day, like. But I think people do have a knowing. They kind of know when they're, and they also, there's like a letting go. They're like, I'm ready, and then they kind of let go, and then the system's shut down. I don't know why this is getting so morbid suddenly,
No, no,
so
no,
quickly,
no,
but
no. Hey, man, I went through this like a year ago with my grandmother, but she was done. She was like 2 years before. She was like, I'm just kind of ready to check,
does she
check.
have all her faculties?
Yeah, 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 most of it. Yeah, but she was just like, all her mates and everyone had gone, and she was just breaking down.
That's
And
another thing they say too, right? They'll say like all my friends have died and this and that, and or
yeah,
whatever, and you're just like, oh man, it's like a thing where you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, but you're like, what do you say? What can you do? You're like, yeah, this is kind of what happens. And anyway, I like to tend towards the idea that death is not an error. It's like anyway. But
nah,
I'll try to go easy on that kind of stuff, because you'll be like, oh, like, dude, we gotta cut it. Enough of this new agey
I love it. I love, man. I could,
psychobabble.
dude. I love it. Man, I think about this stuff a lot. So, it takes up a lot of my day.
Memento mori. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy shit. But
I'm sure you
of
know.
course, we were
Yeah.
talking about Umlaught. Is that how you pronounce it? The project? The
No, it's a little more with a double O to the M. It's like a umlaut.
Umlaut. Okay.
Umlaut. Yeah. And again, you can say it however you like. It's funny, we had a mixer the other day, and he was punching in like, we're like, okay, rough mix, whatever. And he named he spelt it how did he spell it? God love him. He spelled it without the U. It was like umlaut, so Umlat. And I was like, oh, that's better. I like it because it kind of like, it almost evokes like an Ivan Milat kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh.
That famous cereal
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
guy. And I was like, oh, that kind of has like a more edgy, kind of cooler. And he's like, oh man, I stuffed it up. No, I can't leave it like that. Ugh. And he got all self conscious about it. And I was like, no, that's actually kind of funny, because like and even like I sometimes joke that the name of the band is Omelet, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
an egg
That's it.
omelet,
Yeah.
because it's just like, what is an umlaut? And then there's umlauts in like most regions. There's bands that have that name in, like, so if you punch that name into like a Spotify or something, you kind of have to go, okay, which one is Bear's one? And it's
Yeah.
so
And
you end
you
up
get
with
stuff mixed
like
up.
yeah.
I hate that.
And it's one of the, I think we sort of got it under control. Allegedly, the person that was sort of trying to take care of that problem with anyway. But it's just like it's one of those things where I'm like, this sort of like somebody at one point said, yeah, you should be Umlaut because of the diacritical mark above your anyway, the spelling of your name. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. And then like, all these years later, it's like I'm so ready to kind of almost rebrand it to something else. I don't know what it would be, but yeah, it's anyway, yeah,
It's a good name
probably
though.
neither here nor there.
So the best thing
I
you can
guess.
do is
Thanks.
you hunt down every single one, just like the Simpsons, send some hired goons to their door. Hired goons.
No, there's been actually this one. It's like I think it's probably a gay or lesbian whatever like duo that do a version of and I think they call them the umlauts. They're like a plural like anyway, and I think they're some Norwegian or German country or something, some northern European thing. And it was funny because like there was like they had this really suggestive, like overtly kind of lesbian thing going on and whatever, nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to say there's anything, but anyway, it was just kind of funny because it's such an antithesis of what whatever image we're sort of put out there, such as it is. And I think I tagged Angus, the guitar player from Umlaut, in it, just like on Instagram, going like, "What has happened to our band?" Just like just more like kind of like an in joke of just like
Yeah.
what has come of our image kind of thing, pretending like that's our anyway. It was one of those things that it was probably just Angus and me kind of like snickering to ourselves, and literally nobody else noticing, but which is fine. So yeah, good times.
It'd be one of those things where I guess people go, "What's this song?" Like, but you're so diverse musically that you could do anything, and people will go,
Oh, I don't know.
well, I mean, you've done a lot
I
in your
guess so.
career, man. That
Yeah.
stuff. So people will be open
Because like I know that even with the umlaut, I mean with umlaut as far as like and then the bungle kind of thing, like I almost feel a little bit bad for people because like a lot of these songs that we've got coming in this next little thing is are really straight ahead. They're not trying to genre shift around or tons of time changes and whatever else. And then on some level, I'm like my heart, like part of my brain goes to the people who are know me from and Danny from Bungle, and then are kind of going like, oh, this isn't really, this is pretty straight down line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of it is we're sort of clearing out the storage shed of my old kind of pop rock songs in a way, and even those terms sound really gross as I'm saying them now. Um, I would hope it's something a little bit not as anyway, but it's like even in that realm, it's just like it's just a weird thing where I am conscious of like the type of audience that Bungle has and the aesthetic and whatever else and and even like the little groups of people that are like it's not quite as challenging as a Secret Chiefs thing or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, man, I know. I'm like, I'm not trying to, it's just what came out, and I'm not trying to be clever or King Crimson or whatever else. But I am cognizant of the fact that like there's people that are expecting the sort of the unexpected with any kind of Bungle related thing. But yeah, but there's a little bit of that in there sometimes. But it's kind of funny. Yeah, it's just a wild thing to have Danny sort of on board with us lately.
That's cool.
Over the past year, and then he finally moved down here to Melbourne and stuff. And it's weird. It's weird because I keep saying this, but I feel like I always want to tell him like, what took you so long, dude? Like 20 years, literally 20 years we've been here, give or take, and then now you're finally living in this town, and but it's all good, It's
You stayed in touch though over the
yeah, of course,
20 years, obviously.
yeah,
So,
absolutely, yeah.
did I see
Yeah, no, it's not like we're just sort of yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
I think it was it was on the Gold Coast. It was a Secret Chiefs 3 show. I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
what year it was.
Was it the one in the like 2007 or was it the one way back in the 90s?
Nah, it would have been 2007.
Yeah.
So that was at the Gold Coast, Coolangatta Hotel.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I was pretty drunk, but I had a good time. That was
Yeah.
the greatest shows ever, and it was cool. Man.
Yeah, man. Trey's amazing, and I've always been, it's weird because I'll go and we'll do stuff, or even with Bungle, and I literally go, how was I not just like sitting there like Ringo, like I don't know if you saw that Beatles doco recently where that
I've been
Peter
wondering.
Jackson
Yeah.
had done the thing. I don't know if maybe you're maybe like the Beatles can go,
No, 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 no.
take
I
a
just
long
haven't
walk
seen
off a
it. I
ship.
haven't got the Apple thing, so
Oh, well, it's great, and it's like as a musician, it's like it was there was something really like life affirming about it, and it was because it's such great footage, and it's literally like three-hour things, and which, I mean, you can imagine it get kind of boring, or they'd just be like, you're like, what is there even to see? It's like we've all seen so much Beatles and heard so much Beatles over the decades or whatever, but there's something so life affirming, and like literally Ringo is like sitting there as John and Paul are like working out something, and he's like sitting there like this, just going like, he's just like front and center like a little kid, just like, and this is before they even sort of like the end of their whatever, where it was just like he was so invested and so kind of like attentive and
mm,
watching, and I'm just like, I feel like so much of my the Bungle time, even I was sort of sleepwalking through it, where it was just like kind of like I was like, and then later on I'm like, how the hell did Trey do that? He was such a genius production in the studio and all these kinds of things and these techniques, and such a real, like artisanal. I mean, it's hard to even. I always think of him as like an architect. He was like a genius. Is like a genius architect of like sound and sound design and all this kind of thing. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard some of these Secret Chiefs mix where you're just like you hear things like flying in, like when you're just like, wow, and I'm anyway. And I wish I kind of kicked myself, going like, man, this guy, everything he's doing is kind of a masterclass on some level, and it's like you would do well to just kind of like sit there and just like just watch every little thing he's doing, or film every little thing he's doing when he's like at a board or a mixing desk or whatever, when he's plugging in microphones and all
yeah.
this kind of thing. And I sort of kicked myself, going like that I wasn't like paying more attention, like it could have been like, I've got a PhD now just from watching Trey, and I know how to do the stuff and all the perfect signal chains and presets and all this. Yeah. So
I see
anyway.
he was working with Imperial Triumphant. He's worked with those
Oh
dudes.
yeah, yeah.
And I was interviewing Ezra, and
Okay.
he was in the studio, and he came in the kitchen. He's like, "Oh, hey man," how's it going? Trey was like,
Oh wow.
"Hey man, how you going?" It was a spin out, because I mean, obviously, I'm a Bungle fan from way back, but I was just at that age that I couldn't see Bungle. He
Uh,
played the Playroom just before I turned 18, and it was one of the shittest things to ever
oh
happen.
man, that's brutal. It's such a, I mean, these age as a number, and it's just, and the laws that like stop a person, like it, you know what I mean? Literally,
I
it's
was
like,
like,
what?
just
At,
there.
at
Man.
midnight, at midnight on my birthday, I can finally. It's so, yeah. It's just like, oh yeah. No wonder there's fake IDs. God bless the fake
I
ID,
wish
right?
I had back in them days. Talking about, like, you're mentioning the Beatles, and I know when,
Hmm.
so just going back to that, I did see that they're doing something with AI, like they're bringing John
Oh
back,
wow.
um,
Oh God. Oh,
like from a
no.
demo, and they're like finishing off the track. It's like the last Beatles track, and
Wow.
I'm like, one part of me goes, that's pretty cool, and the other side's going, are they? Is it like this digital shovel kind of thing? Like, it's kind of, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You can make people
It's
do crazy shit now. Like, they've got like Jim Morrison singing fucking Nirvana and stuff. Like, I don't know, man. What do you think about that?
yeah.
Is that something that
Well,
you're
I
comfortable
haven't
with?
really seen. I've heard a little bit of the about the Chat GPT, and even the Doom sayers or whatever around it. Like that's some really fascinating kind of stuff to hear from these high level kind of like tech people that are going like, man, this could be really bad. It's like, and then anyway, I could actually forward you like a one podcast that I heard that was like terrifying, and the guy was like, anyway, but as far as like the generation of things, and then like doing that thing, man, it is a strange. I don't know. I don't even know really how to think of it at this point, because again, I haven't really heard anything where I'm like, whoa, that was really amazing, or that was really good, or that was really convincing. I mean, I've seen some of the deep fake stuff,
Hmm.
um, but I haven't really delved into the musical side of it, of like, you know, what you were sort of mentioning about, like, yeah, Jim Morrison singing Nirvana songs or whatever. But I don't know. It's like it's hard to know what to think or how to feel about it. It's just like because it's funny. Like sometimes I think even when I'm sitting here like recording through this laptop or whatever, and then like I'm just coming up with a little idea. I had the thought even as I was putting in like a voice memo. I'm going like, is there some supercomputer like listening to this right now and like doing this like a language model kind of version of music and or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, because for all we know, you know, these things are already, because that's what they say as well. They're like, man, it's already, it's been here for a while and it's been like training off of this thing. I heard this thing today about like saying that like it's like digital karma, where it's like, you know, they say like, oh no, what are we need, it's just, it's based off of what the training set or some kind of thing, or what the inputs, meaning like the history of human literature or whatever, or just literature, I guess. Human literature, what, as opposed to like bovine literature, what the fuck, sorry. So
The
it's this whole
thing,
thing.
yeah,
But it's like it was a little redundant, but it was just that thing of going like, it's basically going, it's like raising your kids, having kids, and you're raising them, you don't want them to curse or swear or whatever, and then you're saying god damn fucking this and that, and you're like fuck, and you're just having this Tourette'ic kind of like, you know, whatever. I was raised in the 70s and the 80s, and my dad, you know, drop, you know, god damn it's every other kind of thing, very frustrated, angry guy. And and then like expecting those kids to not have a like a, you know, like also be doing that. So it's that
mm,
thing of going like, so it's almost like the human race going like, oh no, what are the AIs going to do? And then it's just going like, well, what have we been doing? You go
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh yeah, humans have been pretty horrific, and are we've, you know, I know we we try to do the best we can, and we try to do the golden rule stuff, right? And you know, forgive as you be forgiven, do unto others, da da da. But it's like there's also like, it's like we're angels and demons at the same time. It's like we have these superhuman powers to kind of to do good, but we've also got this the shadow side, which is very Jungian psychology kind of thing of you know, it's, we're both of those things. We're not just it's not just think positive all the time and be positive and don't think bad thoughts. It's like no, those they all have a place, just like life and death. It's like birth and death are like different sides of the same coin, you know, like
yes.
it's like somebody dies, boop, and then somebody's boop, a baby's born, and it's just like whoa. And then what was it like for them before they came into this existence, right? Or us even, you know, sort of like that famous like Mark Twain quote. He was saying something about like, you know, people are like, oh, are you afraid to die? And he's going like, well, I was dead before I was born for billions of years, and it didn't seem to bother me much, you know. It's you sort of like, anyway, and like even my kid's
Yeah,
girlfriend used to say like, oh, I'm really afraid of death or some kind of thing, and I try to tell her, I was like, Talia, how can you fear a thing you cannot experience? And it's like I understand the whole thing of like, or if somebody's sick and they have cancer
yeah.
and they have like a, you know, a horrible, you know, whatever final months or weeks, it's like I wouldn't wish that on a person, but you know, it's like, but actually death. So it's like, it's just like you go listen to the language, listen to what you're saying, you're afraid of dying. It's like, but it's like, are you afraid to go to sleep every night, you know, like, because it's probably, maybe it's not that pleasant, you know. It's pleasant, like I'm gonna go to bed now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
And,
anyway, sorry.
no, 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 no. But you're mentioning all the things that keep me awake at night.
No,
You know,
man, don't be afraid. Just be like,
you got
just
to
rub your
roll.
hands together and go, oh, what's this gonna be, man?
Yeah,
Is it just like whoop? Is this like nothing, or is it just like,
I
you know,
think
who knows? Who
I
knows,
think it's the
right?
thing. The thing that people are most afraid of is not what's ahead, but what they leave behind. You know, that's the
I
biggest thing.
guess,
You know, and the identity and
yeah,
do everything that's the hardest thing to let
yeah.
go of. You know, you spend how many odd years building up this character, and then you're like, oh, I gotta exit the game. What the fuck? So, yeah, what do
No,
you
it's more.
mean?
I feel like it's more like I got all this stuff. What am I gonna? What's who's gonna? What about all my stuff? And it's just like, I mean, I see elderly people in my job, like getting excited about their parcel or their thing, and they're like, and they're pottering over to their letterbox. I work as a postie for my
Oh,
day
okay,
job,
no way.
Yeah, and and it's funny because and then and they seem so concerned about their stuff and the this and the that and the da, 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 and I'm like thinking like, wow, even at their ages, they're not like kind of like preparing it like none of this matters.
I know,
Because that's what it really is coming down to. It's sort of like you do well to become an extreme minimalist, sort of in your final weeks or something. Not that people have the energy or they're like laying there in their bed. They're like, oh, really? I'm going to start clearing out the house. It's like,
yeah, no, they leave it up to
it's
someone.
ridiculous.
I know it is,
Oh,
but I
Grandma,
see.
we gotta sell the stuff on eBay quick. Yeah.
I'm one of those action figure dudes. If you couldn't tell, like it's music and vinyl and yeah, it's a thing. So I know I can't take it all with me, but maybe it could be melted down with me and then shot out into a cannon or something. So this ball of action figures and whatever the fuck.
Sisters? You have sisters or cousins or anything like
Nah,
that?
nah, just me.
Okay.
Nah, it's all
Oh
going to the
wow.
kids. Yeah, it's all going to the kids. But
Oh, you got kids.
yeah, I'm a grandpa, dude. Believe it or
Oh
not.
shit.
Yeah, man.
Congratulations. Wow,
Thank
no
you. Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. I'm a lot older
Wow.
than I look. So, yeah, yeah. If I shave, I'll
Young at
look.
heart. Well, I would have thought you're in your 20s somewhere.
Oh, really? I think
Yeah.
it's the filter I've got on this thing. I turn the
Maybe
filter off. It's
20s or
like
30s, maybe, I guess. Yeah.
I'm.
No, good on you, man. No,
Thanks, man.
well, that's the thing is like even your kids could be like, well, either this is we keep it or, you know, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's it.
it's an interesting thing. And I even like look around my stuff and I'm like, I need to get rid of so much stuff. But then I'm like, but I have so many books. I used to read more than I do lately, but I was just like going like my kids could look at and be like, oh wow, this is why he was always crapping on about this or crapping on about that, or maybe I don't know, maybe they'll just torch it like Wicker Man. No,
Yeah, that's it. But that's not a bad idea. Maybe they'll put me up in the big wicker man, like with just the action figures and just set me on fire and away I go. But that's bad for the environment. But you mentioned an
yeah,
album. You're working on an album, dude. How far
yeah.
off?
Well,
What's going on?
we've we've finished it mostly. I mean, it's just in the mixing stage of it now. So it's just like yeah, mixing and then mastering. I mean, we've got like 3 or 4 songs already mixed and mastered. So it's just like yeah, we probably got like 40, a bit more than 40% of it done, and then we just have I mean, and again, I'm so ready for this stuff to just be done because people are asking me a lot, and they're like, and then it seems like it's been going for a minute with these different lockdowns we've had here.
Mm.
I mean, even though we only sort of got it going like about a year ago, I think a little less than a year ago as far as like the basic tracks going for this one, even though we had another like the another song that's going to be on the album that was already done, the Bite Your Tongue song. But it's like you know, I'm so ready for this to be done, and I feel like we're really close. So like I've been saying like maybe a few months or something, and hopefully like this in the next couple or few months we'll have it. It'll be all done. But I don't know if we're gonna continue doing like just kind of like teasing out these singles, kind of just like mixing a single, finishing mastering whatever, and then just putting it out there into the world, and then because like I said at the beginning of this thing, I'm really kind of getting really impatient. I'm like, I just want to
Yes.
get this done because I want to sort of move on to the next stage as well with newer songs and stuff like that. So yeah, but it is going to be a really strong set of songs and whatever, and very listenable. It's kind of like where a lot of well, older Umlaut stuff, and then even the Bungle stuff is like that's it's some of it's kind of difficult listening. It's like we were sort of talking about last night in this interview Danny and I were doing, and it was like, yeah, it's funny how like there's that I don't know. Yeah. So it's just that kind of thing where I'm sort of I realize some people might be like kind of like this isn't weird enough for me, and they move on. So, but whatever, to each their own, But I do like something that's just listenable, and then just like oh yeah, it gives you what you're kind of wanting to hear in a way, and it doesn't sort of pull the punches with that kind of thing, and some of it's just very straight down the middle. So there's anyway. So we'll clear that out. It's funny because like a lot of the songs came into were recorded as almost as an afterthought because we'd been trying to build up the set and going like, oh, we need something that's a little more high energy, a little more like whatever user friendly for an audience member maybe. And so there's some of these rock songs we're sort of padding out the set in a way, and then we ended up recording them with Danny, and they just sounded so amazing. So it was just like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna put these out now. Even though it wasn't really like we didn't really set out to do like,
Yeah.
because like some people are like, oh, is this the new direction? I'm going like, not really. It's just we're sort of like clearing out. I feel like we're clearing out some ideas that hadn't been properly recorded, and then yeah, and so I'm ready to move to the next stuff. But because it is that funny thing also where there are people where you finish something, you finish an album or whatever,
Mm.
and then it's like, yep, there it is, and da da da, and people are like, wow, oh, da da da, and then you do an interview, and they're like, okay, so what next? What's next? And I almost feel like going like, wait, we just did the thing,
Just
and
did
you
it.
haven't really, yeah. And
I'm
I need
that
you to pick
guy.
apart. I need you to pick apart all those lyrics and like scrutinize them, and then go, what does he mean by that? Is there a double meaning? Is it just like literal? Is it figurative? Is it this or that? And then just kind of like, yeah, just really spend some time with the thing. And that's where I feel like with an album, it's not just like they just hear a song and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, 3 minutes are done, okay, what's next, or I'm on to the next thing. It's like, no, man.
People
Like I
want the
was
next thing all the time, and that's the
I get it. It's like
uh,
it's like a social thing. People don't know what to say. You're just standing there talking to the person, and you're like, wow, da, 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 yeah, it's really cool. And then you kind of like it sort of trails off, and you're like, huh, so what's next? And it's
what are
just
you
because
gonna
it's a
do?
natural conversational thing, right?
It
Yeah.
is. I do that. I tend to do that. I'm like, so what are you gonna do next? What's your next
It's
plan? I'm
almost like
like,
you
man,
want,
I
yeah, it'd
literally
be better.
just fucking made dinner. You know, want
We
the
would
next?
do well to kind of be to say to that person that we're just taking in their new thing. It's just out there. It's all like just you can still smell the the thing on the thing, and it's like, oh, I can still smell the ink on this shirt or whatever it might be, or this silk screen or something. It's like, and just be like, oh, it would really do well to just go, oh man, you guys better not do anything soon. I gotta really take this in.
Just
Like
smell this
you
shirt.
better not, you better not pull a Beatles and record, or a Van Halen's, and record 2 albums or release 2 albums in a year. Like, you better not. I really need time to take this one in. But anyway, so it's and there are things that people put out that it's just like it's so kind of like, whoa, it's gonna take a minute to kind of fully,
Absorb, yeah.
download and get absorbed, yeah, into the, I think Imperial Triumphant is that, if I got the name right again, is one of those kind of things where it's like it reveals more upon more listening. So it's not just like, oh yeah, I heard that, like whatever, on to the next thing. It's like, no man, I cannot tell what the hell is happening, and I'm gonna sit there and study that with my headphones and
That's right.
enjoy that and
And
and sink my teeth into it.
that's what I appreciate about your music too. Like
Oh, thanks.
it's not disposable. I think, you know, it's not that 2 second pop shit that's you need to appreciate it. You need to absorb it. You need to let it
Oh,
take you on
thanks.
that journey. And that's what I appreciate. I've always appreciated about your music. And that's why I was
I mean,
excited.
it's funny. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like I've sent stuff. I'm trying to make a routine of not sending music to family members, or my sisters, like my older sisters sometimes, because I'll be really proud, and then I'll sort of spam them. I'll be like, hey, check this out. We just finished this song, and it's like I know they're kind of a little bit Luddite esque and not like watching some Instagram thing or some kind of announcement thing, and I'm going like, oh, it's just I was sharing this thing that we did because it's released now, whatever. And they're like, oh, and so and then there's just like radio silence, and then I'm waiting for them, and I'll be like, did you listen to it yet? Like I thought you might like this one. It's kind of reminiscent of whatever 70s hard rock or some kind of thing, and they'll be like, so what are you saying in that one section? And I'm like, oh no, like I'm like, don't ever like, you know what I mean? Like they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
instead of just going like, wow, this is amazing, this is the best stuff you've done. This is so awesome. It sounds amazing in the car, blah blah blah. And I always try to tell them and go like, the only thing to ever say when I send you a thing is to tell you it's amazing, it's so good, and I can't wait to hear what you do next. And I can't believe you're my brother or whatever. I'm like, don't ever come at me with this thing of like, it's not really my. This like, I'm like, if you don't have anything good to say, as my dad used to say, you know, anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And I remember feeling like when he said that to me, and it was like high school or something, I felt like, was like, fine, I'm not going to say anything ever then. It was,
Like,
because it's almost like a dare when somebody
yes.
says that. But it was, yeah, with family members, it's just like there's like some people know what to do and or they really actually like it, and that's great. But it's just like, and again, not liking a thing is fine too. They could that's instructive too. Just be like, yeah, it's too blah 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 blah, and I would because most of the time I will agree with it. I'll be like, yeah, you're right. Actually, I'll think about it for a second. I'll be like, yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't disagree necessarily. But anyway, it's kind of funny because like I've really held off spamming my siblings with music because like whether it's my younger brother who's like I don't know if he's just like has a inferiority thing or he's just like F this guy, man, he's not all that, I know who he is, and this like he gets to go and be in Bungle and this stuff once upon a time and blah blah blah. And I'm like, nah, man, I was like, it was a fluke, it was total luck, I was, anyway. But I, yeah, so like instead of getting underwhelmed or just like feeling like, ugh, why am I trying to like impress my siblings or with her and be like, and it's literally just because I think people enjoy something and then they'll just be like a little, and which isn't 100% true, like across the board. Like they have been times when they're like, man, this is fucking amazing. We can't stop listening to it, blah, blah, blah.
And that's
And
yeah.
so, I'm always happy with that kind of response. But at the same time, it's sort of like, it's ridiculous. It's almost like that whole thing of like trying to have your cake and eat it too kind of thing.
Yes.
It's like a porn star that's like wishing they had good relationships. I'm like, you can't have both. You're like,
You
you
can
gotta have all the sex all the time with all the people, and then you're like, oh, I want somebody to cuddle me also. It's like, no, 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 you
uh,
don't get both. Yeah, I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they do. I
I
shouldn't be so.
you're gonna have people writing going, now you listen here. Like, oh man. But I think there is one. There is
Sorry,
one. But it'll get me in trouble if I say. Um but Zoom's about to kick us off very soon. I hate how it does this. But I did want to say, is it touring on the cards for you, man? Are you gonna be coming up and
I would hope so. It's funny because like somebody else mentioned that yesterday, and it was like, we're not quite that organized. We're just trying to finish this album right now. But I
mm,
would hope that we would get up to like Sydney and maybe Brisbane at some point. I mean, because with Danny and it's just a 4 piece right now. It used to be like a 7 piece with all these horn players and whatever, and that just became like a scheduling nightmare. And I was just like, man. And so, and I felt more like an office manager than like even band leader doesn't sound right or feel right. I'm like, I'm not trying to. Anyway, I'm just grateful that people like showed up to play my music and whatever. And Danny, not the least of them. But it's just like, yeah, I would hope that we could do some touring. And in a perfect world, we would even do some kind of tours in the States and Europe. I mean, because to me it's just ridiculous that we haven't gotten over there yet, and
yeah,
i
yeah.
and I feel that I'm guilty of like a bit of a scarcity mindset around that. And then also we've never been like a huge, so we're always kind of like we're always sort of like, I don't know, it's like people that know Bungle might know of us or not, and then it's just like also kind of like where do we sort of fit in, and it's not like I'm getting younger, so it's just sort of like what are